Hey there. I just wanted to take this time to introduce myself. I will call myself Jay from this point forward, just because that's what I want to be known as. So, the reason that I started this YouTube channel was strictly to inform the general public of some of the myths, ideologies, and many other things that go in with being a registered citizen. What is a registered citizen, you may ask? A registered citizen is somebody who made a mistake in their life. And granted, some mistakes may be uh, worse than others. I'm not here to judge. And we always ask everyone not to judge the things that we do. Not necessarily us as registered citizens, but individually, you ask, everyone not to judge you for the mistakes that you've made or your flaws or something that's going on in your personal life. So that makes it to where I want to question everything in reference to what we're about to discuss. So a registered citizen is somebody who has been convicted, pled guilty of, or no contest to a sex crime. And sex crimes and jurisdictions are always different. No one state has similar uh, sex crime laws as another state. It is not a universal. It is not a universal law. So you have federal laws, you have state laws, and then you have county laws. And each jurisdiction. So say you live in Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania has its own laws, but then you go to a different county. The county has different laws, and each jurisdiction has their own laws. So when you go from federal, then you go to state, and then you go to municipalities. So on the municipality level, you have city councils and people within the community of which we each all reside that can make different laws within their own governing body. And those laws typically are just for that jurisdiction. Now, when you go to the state level, that's when you get into the criminality, the criminal law, and then you get into the federal law, so on and so forth. So a registered citizen is somebody who has broken a state law that has required them to register as a sexual predator or a sexual offender, mind you, in that state's jurisdiction. Now, let's touch base on this. Are all sex crimes the same? No, they are not. A lot of people get the misperception that just because somebody has committed a sex crime in one state, sometimes they go to a completely different state and it's not classified as a sex crime. For instance, there are people that are registered citizens who have urinated in public. There are people who are registered citizens who have not once physically harmed anybody. And I'm not saying that it's right. I do not agree with victimizing anybody on any level. But the whole premise of the sex offender list, of which a lot of people utilize, not only just for informational purposes, but it's becoming more and more a retribution type thing. I can't tell you how many times that I've lost out on job opportunities. I can't tell you how many times that I've faced homelessness. I can't tell you how many times that I've had to overcome adversity in trying to fight and trying to put myself in a successful path. So this is really just an educational thing for everybody that I want everybody to be aware of. So, with that being said, I wanted to introduce myself and let you know a little bit about me. Okay, so here goes. I will be publishing a book here within the next few years as well in reference to some of my upbringing and everything else. I'm not looking for anybody's pity. I'm a grown ass man. I don't have anybody, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me on any level because I've made the choices that I've made to get me where I am today, whether it's knowingly or not knowingly. I am in a successful position right now because I put myself here, not because anybody else put me in this situation, but because this is the path that God has chose me to lead. Anyway, I'm gonna go by Jay in this on this channel. Some people may know me. I'm a familiar face to a lot of people within my community. But a little bit about me. My mom was a drug addict. I was taken out of the home when I was 3. I was raised as a ward of the state, and I aged out of the system once I turned the age of majority, and that's when I was homeless. When I was 17, I was charged with indecent exposure. I pled guilty to that charge, which landed me on the sex offender registry at the age of 18, as soon as I turned 18. So I have been on the registry for quite a significant amount of time. And something as simple, and a lot of people may say, well, no, it's not simple, blah, blah. Dude, indecent exposure can land you on the sex offender registry. I'm a prime example. So, anywho's, so after that, I traveled. That's what I did. I traveled. Being on the registry is not easy. It's not easy at all, especially for somebody who's not even a grown man yet that has to grow up leading the life that I had. So it was very confusing and troubling for me when I had to go into each jurisdiction's sheriff's station and tell them, hey, I'm in your jurisdiction. And then the reactions and the faces and just the treatment that I received being a young man, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish having to go in monthly to, check in on anybody. I had to voluntarily, per law, I had to give up my blood. I had to give up my DNA, and I never touched anybody. I didn't do anything, but my DNA is now on the federal database, and that is completely it doesn't hinder me because I have nothing to hide, but it's an invasion of privacy. When are things private anymore? And those are the decisions that I made. Yes, I did it. But, I mean, when does it end? When does the invasion of privacy end? When does the laws catch up with the times? So I'm going to move forward a little bit. Back in 2011. I was engaged. I broke up with my fiance at the time, and it was a very troubling time for me. It was an extremely troubling time for me, and having her leave, and making the mutual decision for us to go our separate ways was tough on me as far as physically, mentally, and emotionally. So what did I do? I turned to my friends, and what my friends told me to do: hey, check out Plenty of Fish. Do that online dating. Everyone's doing it now. Well, I did the online dating thing, and I signed up for Plenty of Fish. And I've always been one to cover myself, cover my ass and try and do everything the right way and live by the laws of the land and just the laws of each jurisdiction that I've lived in. So that's what it is. Anyway, so I decided to try out the Plenty of Fish. And I started talking with somebody that seemed pretty interesting. At this time, I was like 23, 24, something like that. And I was talking to a 19-year-old cosmetology student. At least I thought I was, right? And she was on the adult dating website. And I'm not going to say any names or anything, just because if it ever got to that point, then I would call somebody out just because I'm living the life I am now because, the choices I made, yes, but the choices I made at that point forward were not choices that I knowingly made. So I got to talking with her, and we were talking for a good 2 to 3 months. She didn't live locally. She came into town periodically from what she said. And I was like, well, if you ever need a place to go, kind of clear your head or anything, you can come over to my place. It's fine. We'll sit down, talk, have some dinner and everything. And that's when she decided, she told me, she was like, hey, I'm going to be there, let's meet up. And she said she had gotten to a bad fight with her dad because she still lived with her parents and she just didn't want to be there anymore. So I decided to take the opportunity, to cash in on my offer to her for her to be able to come and refuge, and we could talk and get to know each other a little bit more. And anyway, so I ended up going to pick her up, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Nothing really seemed out of the ordinary. Nothing that really registered with me. One, because I look at it now, maybe there were a couple of red flags that I could have noticed now that I look back on it, but it wasn't something at the time that, one, I was focused on, or two, that I was even interested, that as you mature, you develop those things as the time progresses. So, long story short, she came over to my house for a day and a half, and I ended up seeing a newscast of a missing teenager, and my heart dropped. Everything in my world stopped, and I had to think to myself, what am I going to do? I can't call the police. I can't. What am I going to do? Call them, tell them that, hey, I went and picked up a runaway? Like, no, because I didn't know she had ran away. And two, I was fearful of of what they might say. And three, I'm already on the registry for something else. What are they going to try and say this time? So I told her. Eventually, I told her, because I had woken up one morning from a long night at work, and that's when I saw the newscast, and I was like, oh, shit. So I told her, I was like, I really like you, and I enjoy your company, and I think you're great, and I really want to help you out, but this is definitely not the place that you should be staying. I cannot have you here. So the moment that I found out that I was breaking the law or that she was violating any rules, I did what I needed to as an adult to rectify the situation. So she contacted some of her friends, and I said, I'm not going to call it in or anything. I should, but I'm not going to. So I went and dropped her off with some of her friends, and she went about her merry way. Well, I thought that was the end of it. I truly did. And then 3 months later, on close to Valentine's Day of 2012, or 2011, excuse me, I got a phone call. And because I didn't switch my number or anything, I didn't, just like I said, I didn't feel like I had anything to hide. Yes, did we have sexual relations? Yes, we did. But I didn't feel as though that was my fault, because if I had known that she was underage, then I would not have consented, or I wouldn't even have pushed that issue, and she wouldn't have been in my car to begin with. So 3 months later, I get a phone call, and she says she's pregnant. It ended up being her. And little did I know that it was a three-way recorded phone call with the police department, and she was not pregnant. She was saying that she was pregnant just to get me to talk about the situation so that the police can charge me with a crime. So I ended up talking to her, and not knowingly. I didn't know that the police were recording the conversation or anything like that. And that's when I got charged with sexual assault in the third degree. Because of the fact that she was not 16 years old. She was classified as a child in the law here. And when you look it up, a lot of people don't know that story that goes behind all of that. They don't know. They don't care to know. They automatically presume that, oh, you're messing with children. Oh, you're messing with, minors, and this is blah blah. You're a child molester. You're a pedophile. You're a baby raper. There's so many names out there that they call you. And when I was in prison, because I went to prison for a year, I spent 90% of my time in the hole. Why? Because the first rule of Fight Club is to what? Never talk about Fight Club. But I chose to fight. That's what I did. Anybody who wanted to step up to me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stand my ground. This is what we're going to do. If this is what we have to do, this is what we're going to do. And I was young. I was, ready to go. So I spent a majority of my time in the hole because I didn't want to, be that bitch. So anywho, now today, let's move forward to today. Today I am 32 years old. I own a house. I am now a house owner. I do not rent. After all the years of getting kicked out of places and evicted and taken away from society, and I don't have to worry about where I'm laying my head at night because I own everything you see behind me. I own that. So I am engaged again, ready to be married. We have together between us, we have 3 kids. The courts here granted me full physical, or I should say sole physical and legal custody of my daughter. I have only one child that is physically mine. But I do plan on taking the other 2, my fiance's children, and raising them the same way I would raise my own daughter. But before you come to the conclusions that everybody on that registry is dangerous, don't. Just don't. Because I present no more of a risk to anybody else out there than I do my own family, than the next person does. The recidivism rates for people that are on the sex offender registry are little to none. So the only lower recidivism rate is for murder. Every other violent crime has a higher recidivism rate than anything to do with sexual violence or sexual crimes. So don't let the media and other people make a mockery or lie to you or create some pandemonium. Is it wrong for these things to happen? You're damn right it is. Should anybody victimize somebody else just to get their jollies off or feel power and control or whatever the situation is? You're damn right it is wrong. I do not agree with it. Should they be punished? Yes, they should be punished. Everybody who violates the law should be punished. However, the severity of that punishment should be determined on a case-by-case basis because each person commits a different level of crime. It is not fair to put everyone under the stigma and the requirements of having to register. I have to go into the sheriff's office. I own this home. I signed a mortgage for 30 years on this home. And I have to go in every 3 months to let them know I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. What kind of sense does that make? I signed a 30-year lease, essentially, which by law binds me to this domain for 30 years. Why on God's creation am I supposed to go into the sheriff's office every 3 fucking months? Why? It's a waste of time and it's a waste of resources when the dangerous criminals and the people that are out there victimizing people that don't have families, that don't have the support system, that don't have these things. It's wasteful. It's a waste of my time that I could be giving to my children and to my family. It's a waste of the law enforcement's time because they have to take 15 minutes. It's on average 15 to 20 minutes per person who has to register Right. That's nationwide. 15 to 20 minutes per person to register them or to check them in. How much money is that costing the taxpayer? For the people who actually go in to register, do you think they're going to go out and do something else? They know the pain and suffering that it causes to have to go in and do this. It's very inconvenient. You know what else is inconvenient? The fact that I've had threats and people that have threatened to harm me and my family because of this list. The jobs and the victimization that happens to me because of this list. I'm not a mass murderer. I'm not a multiple-time rapist. I'm not out here to victimize anybody, and I won't victimize anybody. There's juveniles that are on the registry. There are kids that are on the registry. There are so many people on the registry. It happens day in and day out. Day in and day out. So this channel, what this channel is going to do is it's going to touch base on some of the misperceptions. It's going to touch base on some of the personal life that I have to deal with as a registered citizen. I'm going to put my life out there for you guys to be able to see firsthand of what it's like to grow up and to try and raise a family as a registered citizen. It's not easy. Not easy by any means. So with that, I'm signing off. I will be making videos probably once a week or so. But once again, I'm Jay. I'm a registered citizen. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, comment below.